Most people are guilty of focusing more on what they don't want. We start doing behaviors that we're not happy about. We start feeling bad about it. So if I'm not being successful and all I'm focusing on is not being successful, it's just going to pick up on not being successful. Train the mind to go in the direction of what they want rather than what they don't want.
If there's anything in your life that where you're not getting the results that you desire, I guarantee you 100% that it's mindset work that is going to fix that problem.
That was logical and rational. I knew that, but it didn't help me.
Are you looking for actionable insights from the world's most inspiring individuals? The Built by Love podcast is on a mission to transform your life, your business, and your health. Tune in for impactful conversations with people who do business differently. Avoid burnout, acquire freedom, and live life fully on your own terms. With me, Pete Daly-Dickson, alongside Daniel Bussius.
Hello and welcome, Diane, to the Built by Love podcast. Peter and I are so thrilled to have you on as a guest. And for our listeners, I have to admit, I've utilized your services before, and you've absolutely changed my life. Peter has utilized your services as well, and you've made a massive impact in his life. And so we're building you up because I think you're one of the most important people that have ever come across my life personally. And I'm so excited to have you on. For our listeners, can you give a quick introduction of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be on with you guys. So that's wonderful for me. My name, is Diane Edwards, and I am a certified hypnotherapist. And that's all I do. I've been doing that for the last 35 years. I just do hypnotherapy. And these days I do it on Zoom. And that's what I do. I help people make changes and help people understand why they struggle making changes. That's basically what I do.
A lot of our listeners, they might wonder why Daniel and I invited a hypnotherapist onto the podcast, one that is about entrepreneurship for entrepreneurs. Why do you think hypnotherapy is so important for our listeners?
Because I think when people are on their way up with success, they are inclined to neglect other areas of their lives, and it becomes all about the building of their business or the money or something, and then the other part of their life gets neglected, and that's going to be a natural thing that's going to happen, but unfortunately it doesn't give us peace, health, happiness, success. It might give us the success that we're looking for, but it's not the balance, and hypnotherapy can help create more balance. And I think that's probably why hypnotherapy is really important, because it gets into what's going on up here. There's no pills or anything that will help that. We've got to get into what's going on in the mind that's going to keep us down one path and forget about other paths. So if we can be much more understanding of what's going on, then we can be aware that we need to stay focused on the bigger picture of what's really important, not just the success, because that's only a part of it.
I can speak from personal experience. Started my marketing agency in 1998, and like any entrepreneur that's listening, it is not an easy road, right?
Right.
And you're going to take some damage, so to speak, along the way, right? From sleepless nights, stress, just all kinds of different things that being an entrepreneur and trying to grow a business is going to throw at you, which is easier to manage when you're a single person and you really just have to focus on yourself. But the second that you have a life partner or a wife or a husband, then you've got to fulfill and take care of that relationship and that person, which is going to detract and take away from your business. And that's manageable. And then you bring in a family and you start to build a family. And that's where, as your business grows, it demands more and more of you, and it becomes an impossibility to balance. I experienced that in my life. And, I'll admit, Diane, when I found you, I didn't really know what hypnosis was. And I think I'm going to give you a chance to kind of clear the air, because I remember for me, when I was thinking hypnosis, isn't that the thing you see on stage where the performer says, "Watch, I'm going to make this person bark like a dog." And I was like, I'm not getting on some couch and laying down and like you're going to do some like whatever. That's not going to work on me. But that's actually 1,000% not what
Correct.
hypnosis is. Can you elaborate for those that are listening, and they might be thinking such an uneducated thing like I was about what hypnosis actually is?
Sure. And obviously, there's many people who think that about hypnosis, that it's a stage show stuff, you cluck like a chicken, that type of thing. And but nowadays, it's getting a little bit, more people are a bit more educated about what's going on. Um, no, it's not like that when you come to see me. It's not like that at all, because we have two parts of our mind, and we don't realize that the most important part of our mind is the subconscious, not the conscious. Consciously, we can be thinking one thing, but that's not what runs the show. What runs the show is the subconscious. And unfortunately, we're not always aware of what goes on in the subconscious. So the best example I can give you of this from my own experience is when my computer, because this mind of ours is a computer, when my computer gets too slow, I go to my son-in-law, which happens quite frequently, and I say to him, my computer's running slow again. And he says to me, "Diane, you've got too much running on your computer. There's too many programs running." And I say back to him, "But I can't see them. I don't know what these programs, you're telling me I've got too many programs running, but I can't see them. So I don't know what they are, and I don't know how they're affecting my computer." I think it's very similar in life. I think we go through life and we have a lot of programs running in our head that we don't understand what's going on, but
And
they
that pro
are running
yeah,
and
and
they're
that
affecting us.
talk about
And I
programs
think
versus
it's very
programming. That programming is like given to us by other people, really, to some extent, to a large extent, I guess, as we're growing up.
absolutely is given to us as we're growing up. Our programming, we get 80% of our programming up to the age of 8. Now, that's an awful lot of programming up to the age of 8. 8 years old, we have 80% of our programming. It's in
Wow.
place. So if we were told as a kid that we're never going to amount to everything and you're stupid and you can't do it, and here we are going towards success and trying to be successful, we have those old tapes playing. Who do you think you are? What makes you think you're going to be able to do this? Because the old tapes are playing. The
Wow.
problem is we're not aware of them, but they are playing. So that's what hypnotherapy does. It gives us access to change those old programs. Sometimes we know them, sometimes we don't. It doesn't matter. The thing is, if there is something blocking you, it means there's an old program playing. That's basically it, and that's what I know. That I know there's no program playing. Somebody might come to me and they won't have any idea they have these old programs, but I know they have, because otherwise there wouldn't be anything in our way.
Diane, I remember when I first came to you, you offered, a 30-minute free consult to
Yeah.
kind of discuss what the experience is going to be like for people like me at the time that didn't know anything. And I remember you said, and I'm going to misspeak this, so you please correct
Okay.
me. But I
Okay.
remember you saying traditional therapy is going to take, usually it's going to take years to bypass your ego, your consciousness, and get to the where the root of the problem is stored, which is the subconscious. So you can go through traditional therapy, spend thousands of dollars, and it could be years to
Years.
get you
Yes.
to have that issue resolved.
Yes.
Where hypnotherapy, typically in one session we bypass the consciousness, we get right to the root of the problem, and we're able to solve it. And at most, usually you say 3 sessions versus
Usually.
years of prolonging this experience and trying to get to the resolution. Is I probably did not do it justice, but is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. It's accurate in as much as the person really wants to make the changes. And that's kind of crucial when you want to make changes. You have to want to, not because you think you should or because somebody else is pushing you to make changes. You have to want them. When you want them, yes. What we do is we bypass that critical factor of the mind, that one that's always kind of the busyness, the chatter that goes on. We bypass that using hypnosis. That's what hypnosis does. It helps to bypass that critical factor of the mind so we can implant new thoughts that play over the old ones. We cannot eliminate the old programming. We can play over it. It's like the old fashioned tapes. You know, an old fashioned tape, you could throw away the tape and create a new one. But the tapes that we have playing in our head, we cannot throw them away. They're part of who we are, but we can play over them. So they have less impact on our life today because they're not about our life today. They're not even about us. They're about whoever it was that gave us those programs. It was their insecurities that gave us those programs. It wasn't about us at all, but we take them that it is to do with us. So, so yeah, you're absolutely right, Daniel. It does it bypasses that part of the mind and gives us access to the part that runs the show. And when you have
It's
that part running for you and going for you, there's no stopping.
I can speak from experience because when I came to you, I had this huge mental block, right? And it was that things were never going to work out in my favor, right? And so I was on this massive defense of always, how is someone going to get take the advantage of me? Well, what's the angle that I have to protect myself from? And with what you're saying, it was 100% true because uh, I came from a very poor family, single
Mhm.
mom growing up that, never, we never knew like how we are going to, eat and pay the bills and if everything was going to be okay. And so I basically took that on and acquired that from my mom. And obviously she wasn't trying to do that, but
Right.
I took that mentality all the way through my business and that impacted me. And when I came to you, it was transformative. And that voice will sometimes play in my head now where it's like,
Yes.
oh, what's the angle? How am I gonna, this is gonna be so bad. This is gonna be so damaging. I better get my defenses up. And then my new track, the new voice that you had helped me instill is like, everything's always been okay.
Yes.
Everything's gonna be okay. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
So it was profound.
Yeah,
So
it's fascinating how those old programs continue playing. It's really, I mean, people can come to me, they can be 60, 70 years old, and they'll say to me, I can't still be responding to my mother like 50, 60 years ago. And I say, oh, yes, you can. Doesn't matter if they're not around anymore, you're still responding, still trying to please somebody or just get past those old negative messages that
absolutely.
were placed there.
So I wanna come back to that in a moment, but you're an entrepreneur. You run your own business,
Correct.
and obviously, for anyone who's listening, has clearly picked up you have an accent, right?
I
And so
thought I
can you give
didn't.
us yeah, I would love to know. It would be fascinating if you could, indulge me for a moment, you know, where did you come from? And we'll start there, but what I'd love to know is like where'd you come from and then what inspired you to get
Yeah.
into this profession and then obviously end up in this specialty of this expertise of hypnotherapy out of all things in the realm of therapy.
Right. Okay. So it's an easy question, Daniel, because I remember it so distinctly. I come from Ireland. I come from Dublin. Came over to America in 1982 with my family, four kids, and came over with a fear of the dentist. I brought that with me. Now, when I lived in Ireland, I did not have a fear of the dentist because I had a dentist who gave me intravenous Valium. So anytime I had to go to the dentist, I had intravenous Valium. I had no problem. Come to this country, find out that they don't do intravenous Valium here for regular dentist visits. So for a long, long time, I'd be too embarrassed to say how long, a long time, I did not go to the dentist. I couldn't even take my children to the dentist. I was
Wow.
so terrified.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but continue to be held back by marketing that fails to bring in new customers? It's time to stop settling for lackluster results, wasting your time and money, and focus on a proven formula for business growth. At Built by Love, we're more than a marketing agency. We're your growth partner. As a multiple-time award-winning agency, we specialize in creating marketing strategies that aren't just effective, they're transformative. Here's what we do. 1. Grow your revenue. Our proven systems drive meaningful, measurable results. 2. Elevate your brand. Our strategies will help you stand out and connect with your audience on a deeper level. 3. We save you time and money. Our award-winning team will handle your advertising and marketing with precision and expertise so you can focus on what you do best. Don't just take our word for it. Experience the difference for yourself. Book your free consultation today at builtbylove.com.
So I realized I had to deal with this. My background in Ireland was suicide counseling, actually. That's what I did in Ireland. And when you do something like suicide counseling, it's very embarrassing to admit that you have a fear of the dentist. Something that kids could go to and everybody was able to go in and come out and they were okay. I couldn't do that. So I started learning about hypnosis, just myself. Started learning about self-hypnosis, and it took me about 7-8 months until I was able to make an appointment, keep the appointment. And that's what started me in hypnosis, because eventually I was able to go to the dentist and now the fear is completely gone.
Wow.
And so that's what got me into it. I started using hypnosis for many other areas of my life. Public speaking was another one. I would never talk in front of anybody, not even kids. And that got me over that fear. So it got me over a lot before I actually decided this is where I want to go. But it was like a no-brainer for me. It was the most amazing tool I'd ever come across that helped me to make changes. So
Wow.
that's what got me into it. And I've been in it ever since, over 30 years now.
And then what brought you from Dublin? What brought you over to, because you're based in San Diego, California now.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a long move. So
Mhm.
what brought you from Dublin to California to end up in California?
I came over to San Diego on a vacation with my husband, and we came to Los Angeles. Actually, never heard of San Diego. Came to Los Angeles, stayed there for a few days, and thought, well, okay, we need to get out of here. Los Angeles didn't have enough, so we thought we'd go somewhere else. So we tried Santa Barbara, couldn't get in. Everywhere was booked. And then we heard about San Diego, and we thought, that I know they have a zoo in San Diego. It's the only thing I knew about San Diego is they have a zoo. So we decided we'd come down. It was just the two of us. We came down to San Diego. Just something about San Diego. We said, this is where we want to be. This is wonderful. That came to San Diego for 2 days. The second day we were here, we walked downtown. We knocked on an attorney's door, and it was an immigration attorney, and said, we want to move here. And he said, okay, do you have your paperwork? And we said, no. He said, well, if you're willing to sign blank sheets of paper, you can go home to Ireland, get your paperwork in order, and send it over to me. So we said, okay. So we sat in the office, signed tons of blank sheets of paper, went back to Ireland, and didn't tell anybody. Wouldn't tell our family or anything, because it was kind of a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Until eventually we did have to tell our family, and we did, and everybody said, you're crazy. You're absolutely mad. What are you thinking? You're moving away your whole family, your kids from our whole family. That's where we all grew up. And we thought, okay, they're probably right. We are crazy. So we came over for another 3 days to make sure this is what we wanted. Put a deposit on a business in La Jolla, of all places. Didn't know what
Wow.
La Jolla was. I just
Yeah.
thought it was San Diego. And went back, packed up. That was in September. And by February, we had sold up everything in Dublin and Ireland. And we were living here in February without any papers or visas. So,
Good luck trying to do that now.
oh my goodness, I wouldn't do it. But that was 1982, and that's what we did. And we've been here ever since. And this
Wow.
is where I love. So it was something I just knew I wanted. I had a knowing. that it's something, whether it's like a business or something, you just kind of know what it is you want, what feels right.
Yeah.
What
And
business
if
did
you,
you buy? Sorry.
we bought a jewelry store in La Jolla that eventually we went out of business because it wasn't a good business, but we thought we had to keep it for our paperwork because we were applying for our visas. It took me 20 years to get my citizenship. It took a long time because our attorney got killed on the freeway while he was doing our paperwork. So
Oh
The
my
plot,
goodness.
the plot thickens.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? I've
Hey,
never ever looked back.
and did you have any role models for business ownership, self-employment, entrepreneurship, or was it purely a means to an end to get your papers?
It was no, we had my husband had experience of having a jewelry store, so that much we knew. I didn't. I wasn't my thing at all. My thing was suicide counseling. I mean, pretty far away from that.
Mm.
That's all I knew. I liked counseling work. That's the work I like to do. But when I came here, I could not bring my credentials with me.
Okay.
I would have had to start from scratch. I didn't want to do start from scratch. I would have to start from probably getting a high school or something. I don't know what I would have had to do, but it was overwhelming. So after my experience with hypnosis, that was the area that was the smoothest one for me to get into. And I mean, it literally, you can be a hypnotherapist after a weekend course. All I did was the weekend course and said, okay, this is what I want to do. And then I went for training after that, for lots of training. But that was it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
So what should our listener look out for if they're interested in hypnotherapy? So there's obviously a wide spectrum of hypnotherapists. If you can call yourself a hypnotherapist from a weekend course, what should they be looking for someone who is like
Very good
properly?
question. Yeah. You want to be looking for what their training was, what their training and what their experience is. Because I mean, it's like all businesses, there's all types in all businesses. You have to just use your gut feeling whether somebody feels right to you, if they're saying what suits whatever it is you're looking for. But you need to look for the training. Where were they trained? How long did they train for? And what their experience is in whatever
And,
area that you want to go in.
and what sort of length of training? I mean, how long did you spend in training? I guess you've still got continual ongoing professional development, do you?
It never stops. It really never stops. I mean, we just go on and on and on. But and I've got training from all over the country, all over the world. Actually, I've gone to different parts of the country, and because the whole subject fascinates me. The whole idea of what goes on and how everything starts in the mind. Everything comes from up there. So it's fascinating. The whole business is fascinating to me. So I will go wherever I need to go to. It's my hobby, it's my career, it's my life. But yet I also had to learn, like so many people, is the balance of the family. I had 4 kids. I couldn't just put everything into this business because I had to create that balance too. And that's a challenge. But once you kind of know what your stumbling blocks are, then it's much easier when you know what your stumbling blocks are. If you don't know what's kind of getting in your way, if you're having struggles in your relationships, or if you're having struggles with your health, or you're not sleeping right, or you're anxious all the time, that has got to be looked at because it doesn't get better on its own. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But the very good thing about it, from my perspective anyway, it's all to do with what's going on up here. It's nothing to do with other businesses or other people or whatever. It's to do what we have going on in our subconscious mind.
What's going on between your ears? That's what a mentor said to me years and years ago. So that's all that counts, Peter, is what's going on between your ears.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's why
it's funny. At church, right? There's a sermon that happens, and the priest was saying at one of these masses, he was saying, "You're either moving closer to Jesus or you're moving further away from. You're never
in the same place.
Still." So it's your actions and your choices that draw you closer or draw you further away. And it reminded me, Diane, of what you were saying is, hey, if you have these issues, if you have these stumbling blocks, they need to be looked at. Because I would imagine it's the same thing. If you have anxiety, if you have something that you're struggling with, it's not still. It's either going to get better or get worse, and it's going to be your actions and your decisions that are going to change that trajectory.
Right. In any area of life, Daniel, even in relationships, they're either going to be moving forward or they're going to be moving backwards. Nothing stays stationary at all. So everything is always going to be moving. And the problem is if you're having like health issues, say you're in business and you keep getting health issues, it means there's something getting in your way of moving forward. The mind will come up very creatively with things to get in our way, very creatively, even though the health might have nothing to do with the business. It will create us a stumbling block so we're not able to move forward. So then we blame our health that we can't move forward.
I had a coach once, Diane, who said to me, fundamentally, Pete, if there's anything in your life that where you're not getting the results that you expect or that you want or that you desire, I guarantee you 100% that it's mindset work that is going to fix that problem. And anyone listening to this can't see you nodding, but it seems that you would agree with that statement. Why is that?
Absolutely. When I had a fear of the dentist, I knew logically that going into a dentist office was not a torture chamber. People were able to come in, go out, and they were okay. I knew that. That was logical and rational. I knew that, but it didn't help me. There was another block there. I knew what the block was actually. It was because we grew up in Ireland very poor, and I went to a dental hospital that never used Novocaine. So and there was no cubicles. It was a room of about 100 chairs where all the students were practicing. So there was screaming going on. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So I actually knew where the fear came from, but it didn't help me. I couldn't get past that fear. Hypnotherapy was the only thing, or getting into into the mind. That was the only thing that actually helped me get past it. So yes, Peter, you're absolutely right. That's what it's the old messages that get in the way all the time.
So it'd probably be fair to say then that rather than wait until you get to a point where you're not getting the results that you want, you could actually think of it as almost a maintenance. So don't wait till you get in crisis and have problems and challenges. Actually, just in the same way that you might go to the gym and work out, you got to be doing stuff with your mind. Is hypnotherapy the only thing that you can do?
I mean, you don't have to go to a hypnotherapist if you can kind of get in touch with it yourself. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, actually. I can't make anybody do anything. I can help somebody get where they want to go, but I can't make anybody do anything. I can't make somebody stop smoking or stop drinking or be more successful. I can't do that. I can help somebody get there by removing the blocks that are in their way. So I'm sorry, Peter, I lost track of what you were. Just tell me the point.
So rather than waiting until you're in crisis, say, or you've got particular challenges, just to actually come at it from a point of view, I'm healthy, I feel good, but in the same way that I'm healthy and good, but I'm going to go to the gym to stay healthy, that I can actually come at it from that perspective. And then I said, is hypnotherapy the only thing that kind of helps with the mindset work?
I mean, if you're really not dealing with any crisis or any problems, I mean, regular therapy will always be helpful. It just takes longer. Usually when somebody comes to me, it's because they have a problem. The problem could be severe or maybe not so severe. It could be just like light anxiety, but it's bothering them. Or the most common one these days is not sleeping. Can't sleep. Mind is just driving them crazy at nighttime. That's a very good indicator of something that's in the way. And hypnotherapy is a very good way of dealing with that rather than taking a sleeping pill. Taking a sleeping pill is not going to help the issue. It'll help you maybe sleep through the night. You'll wake up groggy in the morning. Sleeping pills is probably the most widely used prescription medication these days. Sleeping pills and anxiety. They're the most widely used prescription medications today because people just want to mask what's going on. They really don't want to deal with it. They want to just want to feel better and move on. but unless you're going to keep doing the drugs, it's not going to help.
You're an entrepreneur and you're busy, but we know that every business owner needs a podcast without the hassle of learning about production. Well, we figured it out for you. Activate Your Podcast is a service that offers everything you need to make a podcast that creates meaningful relationships with your clients at scale. The experts at AYP will work directly with you to produce 5-pillar episodes from a 2-hour conversation that captures the trust and love you are bringing to your ideal client. And the assets are all yours to create your own amazing marketing campaign. For the benefits of a podcast without the hard work, head to activateyourpodcast.com and let's create something great together. Now, back to the episode.
So,
It's interesting because humans are creatures of habit, right? And
right.
so whatever kind of ritual you find yourself in is the ritual that your mind is just going to operate without having to exert any more energy to. Like how you get up and brush your teeth, you don't even have to think about it. Your brain takes over and just runs the operating system to do those things, which I could argue is the same thing for if you're a business owner or you're an individual listening to this and you have stress. Whatever you've found that has been some kind of out to reward you for reducing that stress is the thing that your brain will go to seek, and then it becomes a habit. For me personally, and I've worked with you, Diana, as you know, obviously more than once, but when I overcame my first mental block, then I had found is that, all this stress of building, a company and managing people and all those things is I'd come home from work and I'd pour myself a glass of wine. And then I found myself, I didn't have a drinking problem, but I found myself that every night I was having a glass of wine, sometimes, 2 glasses of wine. And then of course it disrupts your sleep. It's extra calories. Then all of a sudden, you're feeling bad about yourself because you're not so fit and you're a little bit groggy, and then you're a little bit cranky, and then all of a sudden then you've created a problem for yourself to try to relieve this anxiety or this stress. So I remember I came to you and said, I need to replace this glass of wine at night
That's right.
to find another mechanism to do that, in which you did, and it helped me and it worked. But would you argue that so many people that don't even realize there's usually like 3 layers back to that? For me, I was groggy and, not super healthy. I was gaining some weight, and it was because I was taking so many calories of wine at night, which obviously was an impact because I was stressed at work and I was trying to relieve stress. Do you find the same thing? Because my point is, a lot of people are taking pills, they can't sleep at night, they have anxiety, and it's probably 3 layers back that could be resolved by getting to the root of it.
Correct. What happens is that it's based on what we call focus. So, for example, if I have 2 plants and I feed one plant every day, I water it and I feed one plant every day, the plant I feed is going to grow. The plant I don't feed will die. But the most important aspect of this is the plant I feed will grow. When we start start drinking, or we start doing behaviors that we're not happy about, we start feeling bad about it. And we start focusing on feeling bad. Now we're feeding what we don't want. We're feeding the problem. The problem is only a symptom. It's not the problem. See, drinking is not the problem. It's why we drink is the issue. The drinking is only the symptom. So when we focus on what is wrong with me, why am I drinking so much? I don't need to be drinking so much or eating so much. We're now focusing more on what we don't want. And what you focus on will grow. So it's really important that you do not focus on what is wrong. So part of my job is to help train the mind to go in the direction of what they want rather than what they don't want. Most people are guilty of focusing more on what they don't want. So if a person is overweight, they're focusing more on being overweight and being unhappy about overweight. Or if they're focusing on screwing up at work, that's what they're focusing on. But they're going to screw up more at work because that's what they're focusing on. It's a very simple concept that people don't realize, that they focus more on what they don't want.
I've heard it expressed that the brain is absolutely incapable of processing a negative.
That's right. That's right. It takes everything as a positive. So if I say something like, oh, I can't stand being so fat, all the mind is hearing is being fat.
Yeah.
It doesn't hear the negative words. The mind doesn't pick up the negative words. It doesn't even pick up jokes.
Yeah.
We cannot even joke about something to this mind because it's a computer. It's going to take, it's like Google. It takes keywords. So if I'm not being successful and all I'm focusing on is not being successful, it's just going to pick up on not being successful. It's going to give me more of not being successful.
Yeah. And if we've had programming as a child, that is compounding that, then it's going to be even more amplified. Yeah.
Yes. Well, where the seed was dropped was when we were a child. That's when the seed was planted. And then life then feeds that seed. So the seeds come from childhood.
Yeah. I just want to change tack a little bit. How did you feel when your jewelry business didn't succeed after you moved to La Jolla?
How do I feel? Well, we were here. And because we had sold up everything back home, we had no choice. And we were told that by somebody before we came. We were told, sell up everything. Otherwise, you'll be tempted to go back when things go rough. Mm-hmm. Absolutely the truth. Things went rough. We had to get out of the jewelry business, but we had nothing to go back to. So we just had to make it here. So we did some more businesses, and we did food businesses. We did other businesses because you survive. And then about 35 years ago is when I went in, for me personally, going into this business. And that's what saved everything, was going into this business. But it wasn't with an intention of going into this business.
And you said, Diane, you've been professionally practicing hypnotherapy for 28 years?
No, 33 years about.
33 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd argue probably helped and worked with thousands of people all over the world. Do you ever notice, without obviously disclosing confidential information of patients, right? But
sure.
Do you ever notice a theme or a trend with, entrepreneurs, whether it be like, hey, men entrepreneurs struggle with this, or a theme I see with female entrepreneurs, or is everybody just uniquely different?
Great question.
Yeah, very good question. Everybody is very uniquely different, Daniel, but the theme would be more like I remember very well, I had a client, I'll tell you in a moment why I remember him well, because he came to me after his second bankruptcy. He knew what he wanted to achieve. He knew that. And it just wasn't going well. So he had one bankruptcy, got on his feet again, and ended up in another bankruptcy. And that's when he came to see me. So when we looked at all the reasons as to why he went off track and reprogrammed him to stay on track, he went he went on such a great track that I eventually, I don't know, maybe 2 years, not working consistently, but just keeping him on the right track. He gave me a gift of a first class ticket to South Africa and a full safari. So wow. That's what I got out of that, not intending to or anything, but that's what I got, because he got out of his own way. He was focusing on all the times he was screwing up and just kind of bracing himself that I hope I'm not going to screw up again. I hope I'm not going to screw up again. Yeah. And we had to get him out of that way of thinking and focusing on the bigger picture of what he wanted. And he got there. Became so successful. So it's that type of thing. It's getting people out of their own way. And that's probably what most is in common with entrepreneurs, is getting them out of their own way. And also with entrepreneurs is creating the balance with family, because if an entrepreneur creates, and I have one client that I have in mind, he really made a mess of his family life before he came to see me. So his family life was chaotic, but he was being very, very successful. But it wasn't bringing him happiness. Mm-hmm. So we had to kind of create that balance that he could have all of it. He could, but he didn't think so. He thought he had to really do nothing else but like put these blinders on and keep working day and night. And if he did, he had a belief that if he didn't work day and night, he would fail. That's what he believed. That was his belief system.
It kind of begs the question, what is success? Because you described him as very successful, but his relationships, were in a mess. Well, in my mind, that's not being very successful.
Absolutely. But in his mind, that's what success meant, was money. Was
Money.
money.
Okay. So he had a lot of money, but he wasn't successful.
Correct. Yeah. He wasn't.
I remember before I came to you, I was going for a revenue number, and I'd work till 10 o'clock at night. I'd work Saturdays. I was arguably being a bad father to my newborn son. I wasn't being a present and participatory husband, but I was going to this number. And I was going to get there, come, no matter what.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got there. And I was sitting around drinking because I was so stressed out and I wasn't happy. And then when I wasn't working, like my wife was angry at me because I wasn't really present, and my personal life was in shambles basically. and so like, I'd be like, well, I got to work more. And it was exactly the opposite of what I needed to do. It was very similar to the story that you just told,
right?
Where, and this is going to come to you with a question, because I have the opportunity through my marketing agency to work with so many incredible clients from all over the world. And I see this at least once a month, where you have a male entrepreneur that's successful and they happen to divulge some personal information or whatever, and their personal life is not in a great spot. Or they've got unhealthy activities to try to remove the stress, because men are arguably conquerors. They want to acquire, they want to be the protectors. And so with that power, that protection is money and success. And the reality is, like, that doesn't really help your relationship. So my question is because I've also worked with a lot of female entrepreneurs, and it's quite different from at least my uneducated perspective, where they have this massive guilt if they start getting successful, of like, well, I'm not there for my family, or I'm not there for my spouse or my children. Whereas men are like, I need more, I need to get more, we need to acquire more. And women are quite the opposite. They feel guilty for their success. Do you see any trends like that with clients that you've worked with?
Definitely, I've seen it. I don't see it that much, because the ones that are feeling guilty, unless they I'll tell you when I see it. I see it when they start drinking, or they start doing another behavior that is maybe drugs, maybe sleeping pills, maybe too much anxiety medication. They're using something, because they don't come to me saying, I feel guilty. They'll never even recognize that. That's not a recognizable feeling. It will be another symptom that'll try and take away that feeling, and that's what they'll come to me for.
So you're saying, Daniel, about it being like 2 or 3 or 4 layers back?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a few layers back where you start to see it's the symptoms that causes people to go and get help. Generally, it's not the problem that causes people to get help. It's the symptoms. Like if somebody is overweight, that's what caused them to go get help. But really, going a few layers back, it's why they're eating is the problem, not the weight. So that type of thing. Or with an entrepreneur, it's more like the craziness you have going on in your head that entrepreneurs have if they get too focused on the money or too focused on the stuff. It's not. It's the layers back that you have to look at. It's really the layers back. That's what you need to look at. So they don't come to me with the problem. They come to me with the symptom.
It's funny. I read something recently, and they're saying not every single human being out there has an internal monologue, right? And that's like you talk to yourself. I'm not talking in like a psychosis state of like you're hearing voices, but just that internal monologue of like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Or like, those kind of things. And in marketing, when I talk to clients, I say, you're not going to get the sale. You're not going to get that person to convert to becoming from a prospect to a customer until you address that internal monologue, which is going to by default be negative. Don't take the risk. Don't buy the thing, And so if you don't address that in marketing, you're not going to have success. And most people don't even think about that internal monologue.
Right.
And it sounds like my uneducated, because obviously I'm not a therapist, but
Hey there, entrepreneurs and business owners. Are you feeling stuck with marketing strategies that just aren't delivering? Struggling to attract the right customers or boost your sales? Imagine turning those challenges into triumphs with a proven roadmap tailored just for you. Introducing Marketing Built by Love, the game-changing book by award-winning expert Daniel Bussius. Marketing Built by Love is designed to tackle your biggest business pains head-on, whether you're battling low visibility, weak customer loyalty, or stagnant growth. This book provides actionable solutions that drive real results. Here's how it can transform your business. Boost your revenue. Implement strategies that convert leads into loyal customers. Strengthen customer relationships. Create meaningful connections that keep your clients coming back. Streamline your marketing efforts. Save time and money with effective, easy-to-follow systems. Don't let marketing woes hold you back any longer. Take control and watch your business thrive. Grab your copy of Marketing Built by Love today in stores at Barnes & Noble, or order online at Amazon or wherever you buy quality books. Transform your marketing. Solve your business problems. Achieve the success you deserve with Marketing Built by Love. Available now.
that kind of plays true in everything from your behaviors and everything else. That internal monologue of, if you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I just need success, I've got to be laser focused. It's that internal monologue. And just like in marketing, you got to change, you got to overwrite that in order to get them to take an action that they might be reluctant to take. And that's the same thing. It sounds like what you were saying too is, hey, hypnosis therapy is like, we have to change, we have to rewrite that in order to change the behavior.
Yes. And I think people do not realize to the extent of our money messages. We have huge money messages. You grew up poor, Daniel. I grew up
Yeah.
poor. I was always led to believe that rich people were not happy. That was the message in my house. And that's the message my parents wanted to give to make them feel better.
Yeah.
Is that rich people
And that
weren't
they're
happy.
evil. They're evil. They're always like out to do something wrong.
Absolutely. We've got money messages. Very seldom do we have success money messages. We don't have them because our parents, especially, well, depending on what age group you are, but our parents grew up in the Depression when things were really tough and money was scarce and you had to eat everything and you couldn't squander money. And, it's just negative money messages. Here's people entrepreneurs going out into the world to make a lot of money. And if they've got old negative money messages, they don't go together. They don't connect. So
It's
a lot of them are
self-sabotage.
money messages.
I know for
Or
me,
deserving
yeah,
messages. Yeah.
I know for me, it was definitely the regular hypnosis practice, and I do listen to the hypnosis audio every day. It's for me, it was the changing of that internal monologue that made the biggest difference.
That's right.
That's just that the tapes you talked about, tapes,
Yeah.
Diane, that play on repeat, on
Yes.
auto rewind.
Yeah.
That you just don't have any, you think you don't have any control over, but you start with hypnosis, whether it be with the hypnotherapy or self-hypnosis or whatever. And I just found that those I suspect they were still playing, but I couldn't hear them anymore.
That's right.
I couldn't hear I couldn't hear those messages. They were replaced with you're wonderful, you're everything you need, you've got what you want, you're moving towards it. It's just it's wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful.
It's a whole different story. It's a different ball game. Yeah, different ball game. Fascinating. It's fascinating stuff, really.
In my agency, I had some employees that, and just in passing in conversation, were talking about, like, they just divulged a little bit of information, like, my personal life. And at the time, I was like, well, I know somebody that I'll be happy to have the company pay on your behalf, which anyone who's listening, it's an incredible thing. It's very affordable. It makes a transformative investment in that person's life and them to show up to work and be happy and productive. To work with Diane, and the question I'm going to get to, because I remember when I was trying to explain it to the employee, and I was like, okay, well, this is kind of how it works, right? Like, you're going to talk to her, and don't worry, it's on Zoom. You're not going to be like laying on a couch or have to find somewhere to lay down and like, well,
Right.
let's count back to 10, or no, like none of that stuff you see on TV. So for our listeners, as we're coming to the top of the
Yeah.
hour, can you just kind of give a glimpse? And everybody has their own custom way that they work with you, right? Like, everything's not exact, but
Sure.
can you kind of like give an overview of like they do a session, and then what happens
Yeah.
afterwards? What do they go home with, so to speak? And how does
Okay.
that kind of work?
Okay. So obviously now I'm working on Zoom, as I mentioned. So the way it works is we talk on Zoom. I do not ever do hypnosis on Zoom. I don't want to do that. I don't have enough control. So I don't want to do that. So we talk on Zoom, and in the talk, I am looking for what I need to hear that's getting in the way. Now that could be what you say. It could be what you don't say. Doesn't matter. But I know what to listen for. I know what I'm listening for. I know what I want to hear. Once we have the conversation and I have the information that I want, then what I do is I create an audio here in my office, and I, based on what we've talked about, it's a reprogramming, and then I email the audio to the client, and they listen to it then for as long as and often as they need to. And then if they find sometimes they're making some of the changes and some of the times they're not, some of the changes they're not making, so then we need to go back again and tweak it a little bit and tweak it and get it better. Sometimes we don't need to tweak it at all, sometimes we do, and that could happen 2, maybe 3 times. That's about it. I never usually need more than that in order to get it right. And then that person has the recording that they can listen to ongoing. I mean, I can get emails now from people with things like fear of flying, and that people, they'll send me an email saying just got back from somewhere, had a great flight, thank you so much, or something, because they got over a fear of flying. So I still hear from people. It could be 15, 20 years later. So it you have the recording that can keep it going,
Yeah.
ongoing.
Yeah.
I
And
have your recording saved on my phone.
yeah.
Okay.
And the one way of thinking of it, of course, is that, I'm 55, 56 next birthday. I've had 55 years of this relatively negative internal monologue playing. So why not play a positive one every day? Every day for the rest. I've had a negative tape playing for the first 55, so I'm quite happy playing a positive message for every day for the next 55. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, people can do this for their children too. It's a wonderful gift for a child, is to be able to play something as a child is going to sleep, to play something telling that child that they're wonderful, great, terrific, they can accomplish anything that they set their mind to. Could you imagine if we did that for our children? I never did it for mine, but could you imagine if we did?
That'd be
It's,
incredible.
it's amazing.
Peter, I remember when I was talking to you, and you and I were, this was obviously before we embarked on the podcast, and we were chatting, catching up with life. And, both of us as entrepreneurs have taken our own damages and hits along the way. And I was like, you got to talk to this woman, Diane. She's incredible. And Peter, you tell me if this is true. Cause I said and Diane, this is the first time you're hearing this, by the way.
Okay.
I said, she is smart as a whip, man. You're gonna do this session with her, right? And the session is where she asks questions and she pulls information, and this is where she's gonna create the audio. Is during this session, is having these conversations with you. And I was like, Peter, I was like having a conversation. She asked these like easy questions, and then all of a sudden, then she'd hit you like, and is this why? And it's like, oh my God, like a bomb went off. Like, oh my God. Like I'd never thought of that, but oh my God, like, wow. Like it's right there in front of me the entire time.
Yes.
And you just hit me with this question and I had no idea. And so Did you experience that at all, Peter, in yours? With
I did.
obviously without.
I did. Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily as dramatic as that. I found the conversation itself therapeutic. Just
Yeah.
any chance that you find yourself being able to talk to someone who is absolutely laser focused and interested in what you're saying and really listening to what you're saying, and as Diane said, also what you're not saying. So that itself is therapeutic. But the great thing, and I have had other forms of talking therapy over the years, but the great thing about working with Diane is that you have that session and then you get something which allows you to keep on going. Was normally when you're in talking therapy, the keeping on going is keeping on going back to the therapist, and you get value out of it. But let's be honest, it's not particularly cheap, but it's not just a cost consideration at all. It's also a time consideration, because I can listen to the audio from Diane as I'm falling asleep. And most therapists don't work those sort of hours, and there's a time and comfort and ease perspective to it as well. To the extent that you think, well, how can something that easy be so effective? Is that put an objection in inverted commas that's worth addressing, Diane?
How can something so
easy be so effective?
Yeah, it's absolutely true, because I hear it all the time. People saying, God, I've gone for therapy for 15 years, and in one conversation, you've got more out of me than the therapist did. It's a different form of therapy. And I don't compare it. It's not better or worse. It's different. It's just different. So I like to get to the root issue as quickly as I can. And that's by listening to what you're saying. I've got to listen and hear what you're saying and hear what you're not saying. Because as we said in the beginning, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's going on there. And we don't know what's getting in our way. But I'll have an idea of what's getting in the way, because I've just been doing it long enough. Yeah. So I'll have an idea. So it's
interesting.
It does seem like it's very simple. And maybe it is. But it's just not so obvious to a lot of people to put some of the pieces together, like the light bulb goes off. Oh my God, I never connected that. They just don't realize. It seems like it's really simple. I think I also believe in, when you're ready to hear something, you hear it when you're ready.
That's true.
It's interesting, because us as human beings, you would think that we'd want to continually maintain and care for our bodies. It's the only one we have. But many times we just kind of forget about that, where you have a car, you're going to get the oil changed, and you're going to do the things to fuel it with gas, all the different things, that you're going to do that are mundane, and they're necessary, but mundane. But when it comes to like looking at our mental health, our habits, the voices that we're having, or the conversations we're having with ourselves, our inner dialogues of, God, I really feel guilty for like eating more junk food, or I really need to get to the gym and I still haven't, or I got high blood pressure, or I'm drinking too much, or whatever those things are. We don't think of like, hey, just like I would take my car to get a tune-up and an oil change to make sure it can run reliably and efficiently for as long as possible, right? We don't think about doing that for ourselves, which is something we, as especially entrepreneurs that are undergoing tremendous amounts of stress and chaos at every turn, should really be looking to, kind of doing a tune-up. And hypnotherapy is the most effective and time saving way to get that done, in my opinion.
I agree. And if we're going to be careful about what we put in our body, and a lot of people are today, we're much more careful about what we put into our bodies. We're not careful about what we put into our minds.
Yeah. Wow. That's profound.
Isn't that interesting, though? We're going to be very careful whether we're eating healthy foods and not drinking sodas and all that stuff. And we're careful because we value, maybe at a later stage we start to value our bodies, but we still don't value what we put in here. We can put all sorts of crap in there and wonder why things aren't running smoothly.
Yeah. And just in terms of that not running smoothly, I just want to reiterate something I said earlier, and I'm conscious of the time. We are going to have to start wrapping up soon. Is that, listener, if there's any area of your life where you're not getting the results that you want, you expect, or you desire, then just what's the worst that can happen with having a free consult with Diane and just to have a chat.
And I'll always be honest with everybody. I will tell somebody if I think I can help them, but I'll also tell them if I don't think hypnosis is the right way for them to go. I will always be honest with people. So it's
Diane, I can't thank you enough. I want the whole world to know this. I mean, every time I have a chance, I sing your praises. I truly believe that everybody has an impact and everybody has a purpose in this world. You're an angel. You changed my entire life, transformed my life. My life would look so much different than how it does now. I have an incredibly successful business. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I have an incredibly strong and loving marriage. I have an incredible relationship with my son. And there's no way in 1,000 years that would be in existence right now if you hadn't helped me. There's no question about it. Like, no question. Obviously, I believe in God. I believe in the Lord. Like, he had a hand, but the Lord brought me to you and you helped change my life. And I'm forever indebted to you and thankful. And how can other people that are listening to this and they're saying, well, I kind of want to, can I work with Diane? How do I find her? Can you first let us know, like, who can you work with, and can it be anywhere? Can someone be located anywhere?
Yes, they can be located anywhere. I've got clients in Europe. I have one in Australia.
Me.
So they're all over. Yes, you can. So I can work because of Zoom and technology. We can do that. The best way to get to me is just through my website. It's dianeedwards.com. It's the easiest. Diane Edwards, which is two E's, DIANEEDWARDS, dianeedwards.com. That's the easiest way. And just give me a call, email me, whatever you like, and tell me what's going on, and I will be able to either say, yes, this would be a good way for you to go, or no. I think maybe you might need more in-depth therapy for this particular issue or something, but I'll always be honest. And that
consult, is it to have that quick conversation?
It's always free. And and there's no time limit on the consult. I will talk for as long as we need to talk to work out whether this is a good way for somebody to go. I don't want to bring anybody into this unless I'm confident that I'll be able to help. I'm always like that. So
amazing. Diane, any final words?
No, it's just been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys and seeing you again. It's just great. I love it. And I really appreciate you inviting me on. So thank you so much. It's been great. Super.
Absolutely.
Thank
Diane,
you.
You're an angel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Built by Love podcast. If you found the conversation inspiring or helpful in any way, then head to builtbylove.com/podcast and make sure you're subscribed to our email list. Please also take a few minutes to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and share this episode with a friend that you think it might help. Each review helps us to spread the message of love to more people. See you next time on the Built by Love podcast.